Move over, sweet pea.
Dominion Energy.
Good morning, America. Breaking overnight, blocking the memo. President Trump refusing to declassify the Democratic rebuttal to Republican claims that the FBI abused its surveillance authority. This as a presidential speechwriter resigns amidst abuse allegations, while the president expresses sympathy for former presidential aide Rob Porter.
He says he's innocent, and I think you have to remember that.
And what will happen now to Chief of Staff John Kelly?
Winter blast, the Midwest pounded by heavy snow. Havoc on the roads, drivers sliding down the highway, major airport delays, and the flood threat on the way.
Killer flu season, deaths on the rise, more than 60 children passing away from flu-related illness, and the CDC now warning if you get it once, you can get it again.
And Olympic opener, the global gathering gets underway, the pomp and pageantry at the opening ceremony. American athletes ready to do their country proud. Drones front and center this year. Also, a critical moment behind the scenes, and that flag bearer is back and heating up the games.
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
Your identity, too. Hey, good morning. Let's take a live look at the Olympic Village in Pyeongchang. It is cold out there. Check out the U.S. women's bobsled team dancing to stay warm. I think that's the Dougie, the stanky leg. What are they doing?
There was a little bit of a dab at the beginning, Dan. That might be the stanky leg.
I apparently don't know what's going on.
This is really cool. I can't figure out how to do it.
Kid.
What is it called?
Backpack Kid.
Yeah, Backpack Kid. Well,
Right.
they can bobsled and they can dance. Amy Robach's going to have the latest Olympic news coming up. But before we get to the rest of the day's news, an announcement. Our Ginger Z gave birth to a healthy baby boy overnight. A huge congratulations to Ginger.
Huge.
And Ben and Adrian.
Ginger, absolutely. And while Ginger is on maternity leave, Rob is going to be filling in on weekday GMA. So we, in turn, had to find a fill-in for Rob. We decided to take a chance on an obscure, up-and-coming weatherman by the name of Sam Champion.
That laugh, that is
I know.
irreplaceable.
Filling the halls once again.
Are you laughing because we actually duped you back into coming
He's laughing
back
at us, I think.
We know that you have been enjoying your time. We've seen your photos on Instagram. Dan
Yes,
particularly is jealous
Yes, ma'am.
of these photos. It's
Is that-
someplace warmer.
Come on.
But it's
That's-
so great to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here, by the way. It
What
really
is this?
There he is getting a massage.
That's the
thanks.
Ohio River in Paducah, right?
That shot's photoshopped.
That's not.
Come on.
I didn't know we were going to see a shirtless.
I had no
Sam
idea we were
Champion.
going to do all of this. Okay. All right, that's lovely. Let's go live. Yeah.
Sam, we love you. Thank
It's
you.
nice to
Thank you
be
for
here,
being
you guys.
We're really
Great
happy
to
to
have
see
you.
No more of those pictures. You make me very jealous. Much more from Sam coming up. Not the pictures, the actual weather. But we do want to start here with two big headlines out of the White House this morning, including another staffer stepping down amidst allegations of domestic abuse and a provocative move by the president overnight. He announced he will not be releasing the Democratic response to the Republican memo alleging the FBI abused its powers.
We do have team coverage on this Saturday morning, and we start with ABC's Stephanie Ramos, who's in Washington. Stephanie, good morning.
Paula and Dan, good morning. Yeah, a stunner here in Washington. The Trump administration is not immediately releasing the 10-page memo crafted by Democrats on the House Intel Committee. The memo is a response to the Republican memo claiming the FBI and DOJ were biased and improperly requested surveillance of former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. Now, in the Democrats' memo, they describe why law enforcement officials wanted to surveil Page. Democrats also say the Republican memo, led by House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes of California, is misleading and omits key facts. The FBI and DOJ, they did raise security concerns to the White House over both the Republican and Democratic memos. The president releasing the Republican memo despite those concerns, but citing them as the reason why he refuses to declassify the Democratic rebuttal.
All right. And Stephanie, what are the Democrats saying about all of this?
Well, there have been quite a few tweets from Democrats over this. Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein tweeted 1 week after he released the misleading and incomplete Nunes memo, President Trump tonight blocked the release of the Schiff memo that sought to fill in the holes. This is hypocrisy at its worst. Now, the White House counsel, Don McGahn, told Democrats on the House Intel Committee they could revise the memo to address national security concerns. Congress could vote to overrule the president's decision, but the chances of that happening are very low. Back over to you guys.
All right, Stephanie, reporting from Washington. And the other big headline this morning, word of a new resignation in the White House. A speechwriter stepping down after domestic abuse allegations were made by his former wife.
And this comes on the heels of an extraordinary moment in the Oval Office on Friday. The president sending well wishes to another top staffer accused of domestic violence. Sources now tell ABC News that the chief of staff, John Kelly, has expressed to the president his willingness to resign over his handling of this whole matter. So let's go straight to ABC's David Wright, who's at the White House this morning. David, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan and Paul. The departure of one high-profile aide amid allegations of domestic abuse was already big news here at the White House. Now comes this other resignation overnight for similar reasons, this time speechwriter David Sorensen. Suffice to say, this morning the West Wing is in turmoil. 45-year-old David Sorensen resigned as a presidential speechwriter after his ex-wife accused him of being violent and emotionally abusive during their 2.5-year marriage. Sorensen denies the allegations, but according to the Washington Post, which broke the story, he says he stepped down because he didn't want the White House to have to deal with this distraction. The president was already struggling to absorb the resignation of former Staff Secretary Rob Porter amid allegations he abused both his former wives.
We certainly wish him well. It's a obviously tough time for him. He did a very good job when he was in the White House, and we hope he has a wonderful career, and hopefully he will have a great career ahead of him. But it was very sad when we heard about it, and certainly he's also very sad. Now, he also, as you probably know, he says he's innocent, and I think you have to remember that. He said very strongly yesterday that he's innocent.
The president expressed his sympathies for Porter, who vehemently denies the allegations, but made no mention of the two women. Both of Porter's ex-wives went public. One, Colby Holderness, released this photo of a black eye she says Porter caused. The other, Jenny Willoughby, told CNN,
I was scared.
And you called the police?
And I did call the police.
Sources tell ABC News the president is furious about how his senior staff handled the situation. Chief of Staff John Kelly reportedly knew about the allegations for months, but continued to defend Porter. Sources tell ABC News Kelly has told the president he's willing to resign. This isn't the first time President Trump has come to the defense of a man accused of sexual misconduct, whether it's broadcaster Bill O'Reilly or Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore.
What do you say to women?
Let me just tell you, Roy Moore denies it. That's all I can say. He denies it. And by the way, he totally denies it.
Or even himself, when more than a dozen women accused him of misconduct after what he said on that Access Hollywood bus. Now, sources tell ABC News the president that Chief of Staff John Kelly was already on thin ice with the president, and now on even thinner ice. The president, sources say, has even talked to several confidants about possibly replacing Kelly, but no announcements just yet. Dan and Paula?
David Wright at the White House. David, thank you. For more on all of this, let's bring in ABC News political analyst Matthew Dowd. Matt, good morning. Let's talk about the political consequences to this story about the domestic allegations of domestic abuse. Do you think that the president is going to be forced to part ways with his chief of staff? Do you also think maybe this could inflame female voters as we head into the midterms at a time when female voters are expected to play a big role?
Well, Dan, I think the question becomes this is becoming a cultural problem at the White House, which seems to have infected everybody, starting from the top down. When you have a president that uses he and him and never says she and her in a statement on this, it's obviously widespread in the middle of this. I think it's going to have harm. It's going to harm the Republicans in the general election. But it's not only women voters, it's men voters look at this and say, this is not how we ought to conduct ourselves as a society.
Let's switch gears a little bit. We might need a flow chart for all of this, Matt. So I trust you have your handy whiteboard behind you, a dry erase board. But Trump's going to block the release of the Democratic memo unless they can work the language out with the DOJ. What's your take on how the president is handling this?
Well, as reported coming into this segment, how he's treated the one memo is so different than how he treated the other memo. When the FBI and Justice Department objected to one, he went ahead and did it, and they object to this one, and he decides not to do it. It's as if you print the memo on red paper it's fine. But if you print the memo on blue paper, it's not. And I think it just shows that this White House's goal was not transparency. It was not transparency. It was, how do I get a document out there which will help me politically?
Yeah, even though they've said publicly that transparency was the goal of releasing the Republican memo. All right, Matt Dowd from Texas this morning. Matt, I hope it's a lot warmer there than it is in New York.
Oh, it's nice here. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Matt. We do want to move on now to a dangerous new development overnight in the Syrian war.
Yeah, Israel is now getting involved, and ABC's Jennifer Eccleston is live in London with news of a fighter jet crash. Jennifer, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan and Paula. This is indeed a dangerous escalation in Syria's 7-year-old civil war. What could be Israel's first direct engagement with Iranian forces in that conflict. Early this morning, an Israeli jet taken down by anti-aircraft fire from government forces in Syria. That F-16 jet then crashing back into northern Israel. The pilots ejected and are in the hospital. One is seriously injured. Now, Israeli officials are confirming that jet, along with others, carried out raids in Syria after a drone was shot down over Israel earlier this morning. They say it was Iranian and launched from Iranian-linked bases supporting the Syrian regime. Now, just hours ago, more Israeli strikes hitting Syrian air defenses and Iranian targets, 12 in total. An Israeli military spokesman said Iran is playing with fire. The Syrians deny the drones entered Israel, calling today's airstrikes a terrorist act. Dan and Paula.
All right, Jennifer, thank you. A lot to worry about in that region now. And back at home, a lot to worry about when it comes to the flu. New numbers from the CDC saying at least 63 children have died from the flu so far this season. And now there is word of another threat.
Yeah, there are reports this morning of people who've recovered from the flu getting sick with a different strain of the virus. And ABC's Eva Pilgrim has more.
Flu season is raging and it's getting worse. 1 in 10 deaths in the U.S. last week due to flu or pneumonia. So far this season, 63 children have also died from flu-related illnesses. 14-year-old Gabriella Chabot of California dying this week. ERs across the country, including this one in New York, packed. The number of flu patients almost doubling in recent weeks. The number of severe cases also up.
We've got a lot more patients who are admitted in the hospital who we've diagnosed with influenza.
Already, more than 17,000 hospitalizations nationwide, on track to break records. One group hit hard this year, 55 to 64-year-olds. Angie Barwise from Texas got the flu around Christmas. She got better, but a month later, the 58-year-old grandmother was in the ER with a different strain of the virus.
I left for just a few minutes. Thought everything was going to be okay, and I got a phone call that she had just passed.
Her family says she never got the flu shot. The CDC urging even those who've had the flu and recovered to get a flu shot as soon as they are better. The CDC saying multiple strains are active and they are seeing an uptick in the B strain of the flu.
It's possible to get more than one flu infection in a season, and we've been hearing reports of that recently.
And here in New York, a third child's death now connected to the flu. Officials are telling us even if you have a mild case of the flu, stay home so that you don't infect anyone else. Guys.
Yeah, it's really important. Eva, thank you. We're going to turn now to the Winter Games, and there is news both off and on the field.
And of course, that's after a rousing opening ceremony. Amy Robach's been covering all the action for us from Pyeongchang. Amy, good morning, or should I say good evening where you are there in South Korea.
Yes, it is. It is indeed evening here, Dan and Paula, but great to be with you nonetheless. And yes, the opening ceremony here in Pyeongchang, kicking off what will be the biggest Winter Olympics Games ever. Nearly 3,000 athletes competing from 92 different countries. But the spotlight at the opening ceremony on the unexpected show of unity between North and South Korea.
As the games begin in Pyeongchang, this groundbreaking moment, Kim Jong-un extending an invitation presented by his sister to South Korean President Moon Jae-in to visit the North Korea capital, Pyongyang, potentially setting up the first major meeting between Korean leaders in over 10 years.
It's a powerful moment.
Revolutionary signs of unity bringing together the divided peninsula. Athletes from both North and South Korea marching out under one unified flag to a Korean folk song about longing and reunification, running side by side for the much anticipated lighting of the torch, leaders even shaking hands in the stands. But no such interaction from Vice President Mike Pence, who was sitting just a few feet away, directly in front of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's sister. Back on the slopes, the athletes breaking the ice. So far, Team USA empty-handed, not winning any medals. American snowboarder Kyle Mack fully executing his runs during the slope-style qualifier, but then crashing on his final jump. On Friday, the opening ceremony highlighting the heart and soul of South Korea, setting the stage for the stars to shine. Team USA, the biggest in Winter Olympics history, with 242 athletes. Russian athletes entering under the Olympic flag carried by a volunteer. The Russian team, its flag and colors, banned from these games as punishment for the government's doping scandal. But the spotlight was on Tonga's flag bearer, the guy known for going shirtless in the Summer Games, doing it again, even in the frigid cold.
The show ran 2 hours and 18 minutes. That is relatively short by Olympic standards. Rio went nearly 4 hours. Events today include men's alpine skiing and snowboarding, ski jumping, and the figure skating team event. But guys, I gotta say, looking at that Tongan flag bearer for a second there, I thought I was looking at Sam Champion.
Just gonna say that. Amy, you read my mind.
Sam doesn't use as much oil.
He should, though. You could really get sunburn out there wherever Sam lives his life these days. It's complicated stuff. Hey, Amy, great job out there.
Thanks, Amy.
We'll take over picking on Sam from here.
Okay, great.
And we do turn now to the weather, as a matter of fact. It was a perfect segue. The Midwest digging out from a snowstorm this morning. Roads, a mass chain reaction crashes, even turning deadly.
If you're flying, brace yourself for the possibility of some cancellations, even delays. As we said, Sam is here, filling in for Rob with more on what's going on. Hi there, Sam.
Hey,
Sam, why are you wearing a shirt?
Good morning, everybody. Because this is, come on, this is serious stuff. I want to get everybody alerted to this. This is another big push of Arctic air, really, for about 2/3 of the country. And it comes with winter storms, gusty winds, even some very heavy flooding rain as well. So let's concentrate on the blue areas now. You can see those wind chill areas are going to be anywhere from about 35 below, so be prepared for that. Now look at the pink zones, the purple zones there that were really from Kansas into Missouri all the way into Oklahoma. This is freezing drizzle, freezing rain. It looks wet. It's not. It's incredibly difficult to drive.
Overnight, a full-on winter blast covering the Midwest from Chicago to Michigan. The snow and ice causing dangerous driving conditions.
It's rough. If you don't have to go out, I wouldn't suggest that you go out.
Take a look at this driver in Chicago, sliding sideways down the highway. In Michigan, more than 38 vehicles involved in a multi-car crash on I-94. And in Indiana, a line of snowplows trying to get ahead of a massive buildup of snow on the bypass.
From several days of big snow, there's really no place to put the snow anymore.
So far, the winter storm causing thousands of flight delays and cancellations. Airports in Chicago and Detroit are hit the hardest.
We've been through this a couple of times this winter, but this is going to be a really rough next couple of days. Now, so here's the plan. The one thing I want to let you guys know is that there's going to be a lot of heavy flooding rain throughout the southeast. Areas that got snow will just get a little bit more snow today, and then that snow continues to move and fall apart. For those areas like Chicago, it's already been 7 inches. This is a big deal because you haven't had a lot of snow except for this week. And then Detroit got about 8 inches of snow, and then somewhere in the middle there, at about 4 inches a little bit west of it. This heavy rain will be flooding rain. You got to be prepared for that street flooding. That's the weather around the nation. Here's what you can expect this morning.
Well, for today, showers going to be developing after lunchtime, coming down heavy late tonight and through tomorrow. And for that reason, we do have a flood watch that's going to go in effect tonight. Includes the D.C. Metro and points north and east. That carries on through Sunday evening. A quick look at that extended forecast. We're talking rain through the day tomorrow and some spotty showers for the early half of the week. As we take a look at Tuesday, temperatures will start to slide back into the low 40s. We're back in the 60s by Thursday.
Next half hour, we concentrate on the West Coast. San Francisco, a run of record highs. Does that end today?
So that means you're coming back next half hour. Dan didn't scare you off.
Right.
All right. Ron, let's check in with you. What's going on?
Good morning to all of the crew here, SC and SC.
That's right.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to begin in Las Vegas, Nevada, with the autopsy report on Stephen Paddock, the gunman who opened fire on a crowded concert, killing 58 people last October. The report says that Paddock had anti-anxiety drugs in his system, but says he was not under their influence at the time of that shooting. The autopsy also finding that Paddock was healthy and sober when he carried out the deadliest shooting in U.S. history. In Georgia, one officer was killed and 2 deputies wounded while serving an arrest warrant in Low